Hey there, guys, gals, ladies, gentlemen, whatever you like to call yourself. Just sitting out in my backyard on this pleasant Wednesday evening. A little windy. I hope that doesn't make this an annoying sounding video. More annoying than my voice. Is that one thing that you guys struggled with when you started making videos? I hate the way I sound recorded. Probably a good thing I don't sit around and watch my videos all the time, huh? Just having a Washington Cobb. I have Elizabethan by Dunhill in it. If the wind will stop blowing for just a moment, I'll light it. There we go. Or so he thought. Hope everybody's having a good day. I had a pretty decent day. Keeping the kids from killing each other has been a success so far. Well, Padre Piper's video, his giveaway contest, has spawned a number of offshoot videos. And it got me thinking about, not just what you wanted to be, or what you are, things like that. I know somebody did a "Who Are You" video. But I was thinking back on a couple of things that happened in my life. It speaks to a portion of who I am, or what someone knows me as, or remembers me as. And, it's not something I ever would have dreamed of being for someone. It's now happened multiple times, and it's a very, very humbling experience. The second time it happened actually brought me to tears. I was so overwhelmed. What I'm talking about is saving someone's life. The first time it happened, it was an unintended consequence. I had no idea that I had done it. And I don't take credit for it, especially the way things turned out. It was an incredibly tragic situation. A friend was leaving my house one night as we were bidding each other adieu on my front porch. He said he thought he saw someone standing over in the shadows behind another house. Well, that house was not abandoned, but there was no one living there at that time. I looked and didn't see anyone. Thought he was crazy. He was, but he still is. It's one of the things that makes him so endearing. But after he left, I kind of got curious and nervous at the same time. Because if this person was nosing around this empty house, paranoid wheels started turning, thinking if he goes in that house to rob it or whatever, there's nothing in there, maybe he's going to come to my house next. So I started watching out of a window, and indeed I saw this guy, and he was being you could tell he was up to no good. I watched him for a few minutes and felt led to call 911 because he was obviously up to no good. Called them. Police came out. 2 police cars parked in front of my house. They were aiming their cars at the house he was casing. And they sat there for a moment. When my phone rang, it was the 911 operator saying they couldn't find the guy. At that exact moment, I saw him stick his head out from behind the house. And I said, tell him to look straight in front of him, just to the left of that house. They did. A chase ensued. This went on for about 20 minutes. Those 2 cops turned into probably half of the active force that was on duty in that particular precinct that night. There were probably 25 cars before it was over. They were going up and down the streets, looking all over the place. Couldn't find him, apparently. And in the aftermath, I found out that he never got more than 100 yards from that house, jumping through backyards and things like that. He eventually was chased on foot and managed to separate himself from all of these police officers, save one. And he tackled him in the yard across the street from my house. A fight ensued. Shots were fired. The whole thing came to an end. And, long story short, I get so worked up every time I tell it, it would probably be a 45-minute video. He tried to take the police officer's gun. He managed to get his radio and was beating him in the head with it. And the officer managed to get his gun out and shoot him. He died. He was stalking the lady that lived next door to the house that he was standing beside. She had 2 kids, was a former girlfriend. I learned all this in the deposition that I had to give for the police officer's benefit, and which I was more than happy to do. Turns out I went to high school with that guy. I didn't realize it at the time, but anyway, the stalker, when he was when the thing ended, he had the girl's mail in his pockets. He had some jewelry from her house in his pockets. And the police officers were in my house until 4 o'clock in the morning. It was Investigation Central, apparently. Anyway, the next day, the girl, who I didn't really know, I mean, I'd seen her. She lived across the street, obviously. Came over and knocked on our door and thanked me, for she said that she was absolutely certain that I saved her and her children's life that night. She was certain that that was the night he was going to come in and kill her. And he was actually on parole for battering someone else pretty badly, and long story. But anyway, it was very shocking to me when she said that. I had no idea that any of that was even going on, much less to that extent. And she was upset because she, had feelings for the guy at some point, but she was very much relieved that it was over. So that was that time. The second time was about, I guess it's been about 5 years now. We were eating in a restaurant, and I was talking to my wife, and I was looking at a table off to the side, and I noticed something was not the way it should be. And the girl was kind of making motions, and I couldn't figure it out. Back of my mind, I kind of knew, but then everyone at her table jumped up, started patting her on the back. Panic grew more and more. and I realized pretty quickly that she was choking. I had never been trained in any way whatsoever in life-saving procedures, CPR, Heimlich maneuver, anything like that. My in-laws had a poster inside one of their cupboard doors of how to perform the Heimlich maneuver. I'd glanced at it a couple of times, but I never really studied it or anything. Something inside of me said, get up. And I did, and ran over. My wife had no idea what I was doing. I ran over, and the girl's mother, the lady that was choking was probably about late 20s, early 30s. The girl's mother looked at me and said, do you know how to do the Heimlich maneuver? And I said, we're about to find out. And I got behind her and did what I thought was the right thing, and did it a couple of times, and sure enough, the food came out. She started breathing. I went back and sat down and just broke down. It was a very overwhelming feeling. I don't even know how to explain it. I think the thing that kept running through my head was, what if I had failed? What if I had not done that correctly and just, broken her ribs, and some horrific tragedy occurred? And that kind of overwhelmed me. And anyway, quite a few people that were eating in the restaurant actually came over to our table to, what you would call it, not congratulate me necessarily, but to offer the words of encouragement. And the lady never did say anything. I think she was terribly embarrassed and probably in a state of shock at that moment. Two of her children did come over and gave me a rather heartfelt thank you for doing that. And as we were leaving, the restaurant manager actually stopped me and said thanks. We're all trained to do that around here. The thing that went through my head was, why was I doing it? But nonetheless, it happened the way it happened, and no one from the restaurant saw it until after the fact. So anyway, there are at least two people out there that think of me, if they ever remember. I'm sure they remember those instances, and I don't want to be remembered or lifted up for doing that. It was just something that, in the first case, was a random act, and in the second case was just something that had to be done. And for whatever reason, I was chosen to do it. It's not about me. It was about that girl, her mother, her children. Very scary. But anyway, you guys have any things that you're, some sort of a thing that you're remembered for that you never thought would happen, or never thought you would be remembered for, or something like that? When I think of those stories, both of them draw some serious emotions out of me. That first one, I've told the story on several occasions, and typically by the end of it, when I tell the whole thing of what happened, I'm just shaking. It makes me so nervous. But anyway, one positive thing that came out of this is I led a lot of people, and they told me so, to learn the Heimlich maneuver and encourage people to take CPR and stuff like that. If that were to happen now, I would be very comfortable, because I did learn what I needed to learn. I didn't just let it go. But anyway, just wanted to share that. It's kind of flowed out of the Padres question of what you want to be. I could never be a medical person. anything like that. I have a great deal of respect for people that choose to do that. Nurses, doctors, EMTs, whatever. It's a very admirable thing that I could never do. I just don't have the heart or stomach for it, I guess. But, anyway, leave me a comment if something pops to your mind that I'd be interested to know, or a video response. I would love to hear stories. Anyway, I'm going to go back to my bowl, and you guys have a great evening. And oh yeah, I still don't have a tagline.